of founders across the world, many of whom have accessed funding and other accelerators for their startups. She is also a mentor with the Creative Business Academy, Americas, Africa, and Europe. She is the African Prize winner of Global Creative Business Cup among several awards and grant opportunities. Welcome, Chioma. And I am sure that most of you, like some of you who have joined us for the previous session, would have met her. And yeah, now let's get into the session. Over to you, Chioma. Chioma, can you hear us or do you have any technical issues? Hello?
What did you shall we?
Hello? Yeah, I think she is having some technical problems. She has logged out and she's trying to log in again. Let's wait for some more time. And while we wait for her, so yesterday there was a question regarding the deadline for submission of pitch deck. So we have extended the deadline from September 28th to September 29th, 12 p.m. So you will be getting the list again with all the dates so that you have everything in place. So there are two dates you have to keep in mind. One is September 25th by 12 p.m. You have to submit your executive summary or the business plan. And on September 29th by 12 p.m., please submit your pitch deck. So these will be the two dates. And also please note, like you're qualified, like your qualification to participate in the pitch contest depends upon your attendance. If you have a 90% attendance to the session, you will be qualified for the pitch contest, as we had informed to you earlier, and this was also mentioned in the forms. So if you have, like, we'll be shortlisting based on the attendance, and then if there is something, if you find that you have not met the attendance criteria, we'll let you know. Give me a few seconds. Let me just connect with Chioma and see what's going on with her.
Okay, so it's dead quiet. I want to break the silence. mentioned that I did email a couple of us today with a survey, and it's also on Slack. We would greatly appreciate it if you save 1 minute of your time to complete it. And if you have questions, do not hesitate to contact me. I'll be very happy to provide any necessary further information you might need. Thank you again, and welcome to everyone who's just joined us. Thank you very much for joining. All right.
I'm back. Oh my God. Okay. Oh, I need to remove my background. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're clear, Chioma. I'm glad that you're back again. So I was trying to connect with you on the back end.
Okay, so let's go. All right. Can I go ahead now? I'm so sorry, everyone. Yeah. Okay. Good evening, and thank you for having me once again. I'll just quickly share my screen and quickly get to it. Just give me 1 second. Okay. All right. So today we're talking about how to deliver an effective pitch. I have delivered so many pitches on several stages across the world. And I can tell you that if you just stand out, if you just have something just very little that stands you out from every other person in your industry, and you are able to make a compelling pitch, you will always win, right? So I'm starting with so our 5 key learning areas will be your unique value, understanding how to stand out from everybody in your industry. Why are we even having this pitch conversation in the first place? We're having this conversation because there are so many brilliant entrepreneurs like you who are vying for the same opportunities, who want the same, grants, who want the same fellowships, who want the same network and scholarships and all these opportunities. There's so many brilliant people, right? But the opportunities are not equal to the people who are creating all this impact. And what that means is there are only a few people who will be able to get the opportunities. So the people who are able to get the opportunities are people who stand out from the rest, are people who prove or are able to articulate their vision and value, excellently, right? So that's exactly why we're having this conversation, to get you from just being an ordinary founder to being an excellent founder who is able to articulate your vision and your value to your audience, right? So how do we even start from? How do we start doing all of that? First, you have to identify what your unique value is. What's that thing that stands you out from your industry, from every other person in your market? Next thing is storytelling. You have to be able to know how to tell that story. We hear that stories sell. How do you tell a compelling story that conveys the story of your brand, or that conveys the message of your brand in such an emotional way? So you remember that first of all, you have to come to the people you're talking to, your audience. You have to,
Chioma, your screen is frozen. Can you hear me?
Emotion.
Your screen is frozen.
The pitch documents that you're presenting, how do you write grants, how do you write grant proposals to make a winning pitch. How do you find your unique value? What's that thing that's different that you're doing that nobody else does, or that nobody else offers that same value? How do you find that out? Now, your unique point is what sets you out from your competitors. Consider answering the question, how are you different from XYZ company? Now, a lot of people in your industry, say if you're in the confectionery industry, so many people make delicious bread, people make delicious cookies, right? Or cake or something if you're in the health sector, or maybe tech, even tech, right? So a lot of people are now incorporating technology into their business model. Now, what's the difference from you incorporating technology into your business model and the next person who is also incorporating technology? How do I differentiate between both of you doing the same thing? We're offering the same value, but in the same industry. We're using technology to drive adoption, or using technology to provide a solution. Why do I need to talk to you instead of the next person? Right? If you're able to answer that question and find that unique thing about you, it'll be easier to convey your message. It'll be easier to stand out, wherever you pitch. Now, let's go to how to, let's go to how to even understand where you are, where you're positioned in the market, right? This will also help you understand if you need to be moving your solution to another quadrant. So this quadrant is what I've called the card quadrant. It helps you understand how your business is perceived in the marketplace, and then how best to present your value. So is your business offering a critical solution, or your business is offering an aspirational solution, or it's solving a real problem, or it's even disruptive, right? So I will start from the general one. So from the real quadrant, it means anybody that has a business is solving a real problem. It's assumed that you're solving a real problem. That's why you started your business, right? But for disruptive solutions, they're mostly the solutions that come into the markets to disrupt the way things were done or the way things have been done before. So most technology startups fall in this quadrant, right? So most technology startups fall in this quadrant because they came to enhance the already existing solutions. So the likes of Airbnb, the likes of Uber, Amazon. So they use technology to disrupt the market and ensure that more people are transacting more efficiently. We had cabs before, we've had hotels before, we've had all of these services before, but these technology solutions have come to disrupt the way we interact with these kind of businesses. So those solutions are disruptive, and disruptive solutions are very easy to sell or very easy to pitch. That's because of the weight of the value they offer, right? So imagine that people will stand at the bus stops and wait for their cab for however long before a cab passes, and then you flag down the cab. But now I can be on my bed and just order a cab, and the cab comes in front of my house in 5 minutes, right? So it's easier to pitch that value because of the weight of the value, in the ecosystem, right? Then, so that's why you find that it's easier for tech companies to win all these opportunities. Or you see they're raising funds here and there, or they're the ones selected for grants here and there. They're the ones, going for all these opportunities because it's easier to pitch disruptive solutions. It's easier to believe that they're actually adding value to the economy, right? Then for aspirational solutions, are mostly solutions that are in the creative sector are seen as aspirational. That's because nobody's going to die if they don't wear a Gucci watch, right? Nobody's going to die if they don't drive a Mercedes-Benz car. It's not as critical. People aspire to be wealthy, to drive a Rolls Royce. People aspire to wear a diamond ring. People aspire to live in, skyscrapers and all of those things, right? But they're not critical solutions. So if you're pitching solutions like that, you would have to find out the critical aspect of those of the solution you're offering and bring it to the fore. So I'll explain what this means. So I'll explain this going to the critical quadrant. So going to the critical quadrant now, here your solution is in high and urgent demand. If people don't buy into your solution, there's problem. There's going to be problem. People might die, people might be hungry, people might be sick, there might be erosion, there might be, dangerous things might happen if your solution is not here, right? So it means you're in the critical quadrant. So most people in agric, in the health sector, are in this quadrant because, again, they're providing solutions that are very critical. If people don't receive medical treatment, they might die. If people don't eat, they will malnourished and be sick and all of that, right? So that's why it's also easier for people in agric and in the health sector to get opportunities because their value is easy to see because it's very critical, right? Now, as a creative person, what you do is to extract the critical aspect of your business and pitch that critical solution and tie it to the aspirational solution. For example, I run a fashion company called Red Button. Now, Red Button is about clearly we make dresses, right? So that's the thing on the surface. That's the main thing everybody will see. Red Button makes dresses, or which company now, like Stella McCartney, they make beautiful, party dresses, right? Good. Nobody's going to die if they don't wear a red button dress. Nothing's going to happen. In fact, I might never wear a Gucci dress ever in my life, and I'll be very good. Nothing will happen to me. So because I have a creative business and it falls in the aspirational quadrant, people might not want to, or organizations might not want to pay a lot of attention to my page because I'm saying, oh, we make beautiful dresses, or we make the best rings, or our rings are so beautiful, or I have an accessory brand, or we make human hair. You know what? Those things are not things that people want to invest in because of where they fall into this quadrant, right? Now, what you would do as someone who has that kind of business, your business is obviously offering value. Now, the question is, how do you pitch it to get opportunities? Since these opportunities are for people who are offering, critical value, right? Now, what I do is to to extract the critical aspect of my business and put it to the fore. I have a sustainability angle to my business. So we upcycle the industrial and agri waste, and we use these materials to make, fashion, right? We are empowering so many women in the rural communities who are making the textiles and hand making the accessories that we use in our fashion production. So I am not telling, an investment company that, oh, invest in my company because we make beautiful dresses. No, I'm telling the investment company, invest in my company because we are solving this huge environmental problem in my community by upcycling all these waste materials and using them to create this fashion product. Again, because we are doing this very important environmental work, we are empowering over 300 women in this community who are hand making these materials. If not for this work, these women would not be able to send their children to school. So it's because of our work that they're able to earn a decent life and send their kids to school. So you see, the investor is already wondering, oh my goodness, how do I invest? Because I need to also touch these people's lives. I need to also be part of the environmental solution that they're bringing, right? So it's not just, oh, let me invest because you make beautiful dresses. Oh, I love your dresses. Take $5 million, right? Nobody's going to give you $5 million because you make the best rings, So you have to find a way to extract the critical value and then tie it to the aspirational value you're offering. All right, let's move on quickly. Now, these are the things that will help you calculate or articulate your unique value. Now, first thing, I say this a lot because creative entrepreneurs always say, well, there's nothing interesting, there's nothing special about what I'm doing, or there's nothing, how do I extract the unique value, and I hear all these things a lot. And I say the first thing you do is even to research your industry. Research your industry. Before I started, I came into the industry as, oh, I just like fashion, so in my mind, and of course, for most fashion designers, is, oh, I'm passionate about fashion. It's something that I just love, right? Nothing bad or crazy happened. I just love it, right? But that's not what an investor wants to hear. So what I did was to look deeply into the industry and find out critical ways that I can add more value apart from just being passionate about dresses, right? And from that research, I found that sustainability is a huge, huge area that people are not paying attention to. And that's how I ventured into sustainable fashion. Now, researching sustainable fashion across the world, I understood where to find or what kind of sustainable materials to use, what sustainable areas to even focus on, and how to use all of those things that I'm learning in sustainability to improve my fashion company. Right. So all of those things came from research. So understanding how other people are performing in your industry, especially away from your region, right? So for instance, if you're in what other industry can I use? What industries are here? Can you give me just 2 examples? What's your industry?
Finance. There is one on the chat box. Finance, beauty,
Right,
personal
finance. Okay. Now, so for instance, you're in the finance industry, you're an accountant and you have an accounting company. You help startups with taxes and all of this consulting, putting their books together. Now, what you can do is to find out how other accounting companies in other regions are operating and how they are accessing opportunities. That would open your mind to, or maybe these people are using, or maybe they are focusing on startups in, let's say, in Bangladesh, who suffer, or where there's a lack of transparency, or where there's a lack of education. You're focusing on, let's say, the health sector. So your accounting or your tax consulting is for the health sector. So you can now discover that, there's actually something like accounting for health, or there's something like accounting for just startups, and people are building businesses and niching it down to smaller industries, right? Instead of just being an accountant for everybody. So the research can open your eyes to how other people are structuring their businesses and making and attracting more value. So for instance, I have a friend actually who is also an accountant, but she's an accountant for small businesses. And in preparing her unique value and her pitch document, we tailored it in such a way that, small businesses are closing down every, let's say, for example, 10,000 small businesses close down every 5 years in Africa. Why is that? That's because they don't have, appropriate orientation or education on how to keep their books. They don't know how to keep their books. Their finances are all over the place. They can't attract funding, or this and that is happening, or they cannot pay salaries. So I found out the issues with small businesses in Africa and the issues with accounting for them. And with that, we now use that to create a unique value for that business. This accounting business is specially tailored for small businesses, because we realize that 5 out of 10 businesses in Africa close down every 5 years. But since I have now started servicing small businesses in, for example, in Morocco, we've realized that now just 2 out of 10 businesses survive the first. Just 2 out of 10 businesses now close down. So instead of 5, because my startup has, developed so and so curriculum. We're helping businesses do this. We're helping them do that. So that way, investors are more interested in your success stories and how you have, championed change in your community. So because of your work, more startups are thriving. They're not closing down anymore. So you can find out, from other regions how they are also attracting value, and you can use that to create a unique value for yourself. And that's exactly what I did with Red Button as well. So I started to find, or look for sustainable fashion companies across the world. How are they attracting value? How are they pitching themselves? What kind of events they attend? What are the value areas that they have? So I have materials, and I started using sustainable materials. So I no longer use everything and anything I find in the market, because of course I'm positioning now as a more conscious brand, right? So and it's because of that research that I continue to evolve, and I continue to introduce new sustainable strategies for my business. Right, so you have to conduct this research, and you open your eyes to see where you can innovate in your business. Again, research your industry, research your donors or investors or whoever it is you're pitching to. You have to research them and find out exactly where their interest areas are. Some people are interested only in funding educational projects. So you don't go about pitching companies who are not interested in finance or are not interested in agriculture. They are only interested in educational projects. So you need to be able to find out how exactly to pitch them. If you are, so for instance, like an MTN is not interested in, or is mostly interested in educational projects. So if you're researching your donors or the companies you want to pitch, you would find exactly how your interests align with theirs, and it's easier for them to listen to you, and it's easier for them to accept your proposal, right? So again, read instructions while you are proposing to whoever the audience is. Some people are not interested in founders who have had some kind of opportunities. And I'm saying this out of experience. In fact, everything I'm talking about is what I have done, is what has happened to me. Sometimes I just apply without reading the instruction or without researching the donor or the organization. And by the time I get the rejection email, I see that, oh my goodness, they didn't want founders who have this as part of their value, or they didn't want founders who have traveled to so and so countries before, or they didn't want, so I didn't realize the things that they didn't want because I didn't read, I didn't research them. I don't know what they are most interested in. And that's why I failed in some of these applications. So yeah, research your founders, research your donors and the organizations you're pitching to ensure that your interest aligns exactly with what they want, what they're looking for. Now, tailor your pitch. Okay, yeah, I just talked about that. So tailor your pitch to the interest of your audience. Ensure that your pitch is tailored to exactly what they want. I'm not going to be pitching to a UN and I'm telling them, oh, I sold 5,000 dresses in 2 seconds. The UN is not interested in how many dresses I've sold in 2 seconds. They're interested in the impact that my business has in my community. So I am pitching to the UN and I'm telling the UN that, oh, we have upcycled 3 million tons of waste from the Kokomaki community, and we have empowered 5,000 women in 3 states in Nigeria. That's what the UN is interested in, and not how many dresses I sold in 2 seconds, right? So you have to be able to tailor your pitch to your audience, whatever it is that interests them. A bank, for instance, who I'm seeking a loan from, might not be very keen on how many tons of waste I have upcycled, but they will be very keen on how many dresses I sold in 2 seconds, because they see that, oh, this is business, money is coming in. She has in a lot of, her customer database is huge, and her marketing is also working. So a bank is interested in all that detail because they want to also recover their money. But a non-governmental organization is interested in the impact your work is having in your community. So this is very important, to understand your audience and know how to tailor your pitch exactly to what their interests are. The next thing is, the more critical the problem is, the more compelling your pitch will be. Now, I said it in the quadrant slide. If your solution does not sound critical, you have to find a way to extract the critical value. The more critical the problem sounds, the more compelling it will be. So imagine a baby that's crying and saying, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, give me food. And then the baby that's crying, I'm hungry, give me food, I'm hungry, I'm about to die. Who do you think will have, who do you think will have food quickly? It's the one that has, that's showing a lot of, what do you call it, energy and crying and saying, no, I have this problem, so the more critical your problem is, the more people will listen to you. If it doesn't sound like, okay, it's not really critical, it's not really a problem, nobody's going to die, nothing bad is going to happen, so we might as well just keep that, and look for the people who are affecting lives, who are, creating huge impact, right? So if you have that in mind as you're talking about your value, have it in mind. Just think about it as you're talking about your value. Is this value critical? Are people going to have goosebumps as I'm talking about this? Are people going to think that, oh, so many lives are going to change because of my work? If you think about it that way, you'll be able to rejig your pitch better. Now, storytelling, quickly, we all know what storytelling is used to capture the emotion of the audience, because before they start listening to the details of your pitch and how many things you've sold in 1 second, they need to be connected to you on an emotional level, right? And then there are 2 types of stories, that you can tell. your original personal story and or the significant experiences around your venture. Now, your original your original personal story is whatever motivated you to start the business. So, for instance, in 1996, I fell into a ditch and broke my leg. And since then, I decided that there will be no ditch in my community. I started a construction company that covers all the ditches in my community, right? So that's a personal story. It's something that happened to you. And because of that, you decided that, I don't want this to happen to anybody else. And you started the business out of that, your pain, right? And then the significant experiences around your venture is you don't have a compelling personal story. There's nothing that happened to you. There's no pain that happened to you that caused you to start your business. But you can create a story around the experiences around your business. So what that means is, for example, I'm going to use my fashion company. Fashion is very aspirational. A lot of people just started fashion because, I like fashion. Yeah. Or, my mom had a fashion company, so I just started learning and I found myself in fashion. That's not a compelling story, even though that's my personal story or the personal stories of a lot of people, but that's not compelling. No investor is going to be connected and say, oh, wow, because of that story, right? So because I realized that that story is not compelling enough, I had to use the stories around the business, the stories around my experiences now to craft a compelling story for my pitch. Now, what that means is I'm no longer talking about, I'm very passionate about fashion, or my mom, had a fashion house, so I just grew up being passionate about fashion. I no longer talk about that story because I don't think it's compelling, or I think, a lot of people have that story. I don't want to sound like anybody else. So what I've done is to create another story for my business using the experiences that I see around me. So what I have now is a story around the upcycled materials we use, right? So instead of talking about this personal story that is not very, I'm now telling people that, or I'm talking to investors that we have 15,000 hectares of water area covered by this invasive material. Imagine the menace caused by this material. Both transport operators cannot move their boats because of this material. This material is also a threat to our biodiversity. It blocks hydroelectric power channels. What we have done now is to convert all these fishermen, we convert them now to harvesting this material. We are upcycling them and we're not using them for fashion. So by doing this, we've created a whole new economy out of this environmental hazard, right? So imagine that this is the story I'm telling. Compare it to, I'm very passionate about fashion. My mommy had a fashion house and, just started learning fashion. So these two stories, I don't need to say much. You already know the one that the investor would listen to. So that's exactly what you do. If you have a compelling original story, that's totally fine. Someone lost her dad because of diabetes. The dad liked to take, what do you call it, this soda and cocktails a lot, right? And when the dad died, she discovered that, what, I don't want to have this kind of experience. I don't want to have people experiencing this. So if you like, sweet drinks, I can start making healthy sweet drinks instead of having, the regular ones, right? And that'll cause diabetes. So because of the death of her father, she launched the healthy cocktail company. And now she's raised millions and millions of dollars making healthy cocktail from, whatever secret ingredients that she has from the farm. Right? So that's an original personal story that is also very compelling. And people are wondering, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry about your dad. Now you're changing lives, you're preventing people from dying because you're now creating healthy cocktails, right? So if you don't have an original personal story like that, you can create a story around your business with your new experiences. All right? Now, quickly, the structure of a compelling story is the setup, the struggle, and the solution. Just like I've talked about with my own story. The setup is when did this happen, what was happening when it happened, and then the struggle is all the problems and the dangers that are there, in that story. Then the solution, of course, is the end, the result. So what has happened when you discovered all these problems? What did you do? So in our case, when we discovered, oh, the menace this material is causing in my community, we started to harvest the material and process them into fashion raw materials. So that's the solution, right? So you talk about what happened and then the struggle, this was doing this was doing that. It's all the problems that it was having in my community. And then the solution is we then did this and, started solving this problem. Right. So now we'll talk about your pitch deck. What's the pitch deck is your document. In fact, let's just call it your pitch document. So that's what you use in pitching, right? It's concise. It's usually delivered in slides. Again, remember that your pitch deck doesn't have to be 1 million slides. You can use 3 slides and convey your message and, still win the opportunity. I have used 3 slides before and I still won the opportunity. So it's not by how many slides. In fact, I would always advise to use maximum 10 slides. You would not always have the time to pitch with so many slides. So have that at the back of your mind. I always advise maximum 10 slides. So I'll show you through a pitch document. I'll show you through a regular pitch that you can use as reference. But just to summarize what the whole pitch is about. So for this, generally, please ensure that your pitch is on a white background. And I say this because you don't know the platform that you're going to be pitching on. Sometimes too many, a dark background can pixelate on your, on the content of your pitch, and it won't be very clear. So you understand that if you have a white background, every other thing that it's on it becomes very clear, right? So it's safe to use a white background all the time. And then, of course, incorporate your brand colors in them. Again, for your pitch, use more illustrations, bold images, instead of stories, instead of words. So limit your words to 20 words per slide. So average of 20 words per slide is fine. Bullet points, do not have stories and paragraphs on your pitch deck. Do not have stories and paragraphs on your pitch deck. Nobody is interested in reading your pitch deck. Consider your pitch deck as a Netflix movie. We are watching the movie. The illustrations and the pictures on your pitch deck is the movie that we're watching. And then the bullet points is a subtitle on the movie. You don't see a Netflix movie and you see a whole paragraph, right? I'm not here to read the paragraph. I'm watching the movie. So you and the slide is the movie. I'm watching you. I'm watching your movement, and then I'm watching the illustrations on your slides. So I just need 1 bullet points, 2 bullet points, something to just guide me. I'm not reading any paragraph. So avoid that. So quickly on the pitch deck, the first thing is, of course, your cover slide. Ensure that it's, it has a bold image of what you're trying to convey. You know how food plating is. If the food is plated nicely, people want to just jump into the food. They're already salivating to see what the food or what the meal has, right? That's also how the cover slide is. Ensure that your cover slide is very, very inviting. Use a very bold picture, a very bold illustration of what the content of your pitch deck is. So the first thing is the problem. So you have the problem slide, which of course I explained that you have to use a very critical picture or an image of what the problem is, right? For instance, I'm talking about my own business, I'm using an image of people who are suffering in that community as a result of this, material or this invasive, weed. So that image is an image that conveys, oh, this problem is critical. This problem has to be solved. Oh, we have to fund this project. We don't want to see this picture. So it's a picture that they don't want to see because it's so hard. We need to solve this problem. So use that kind of picture that will, evoke emotion, right? To talk about your problem. And then your solution, of course, has your value proposition. Use a strong image, of course, that conveys the solution you're bringing, right? Remember, no paragraphs, use bullet points and very bold illustrations or images. Next thing is your market size. Talk about the people who you're creating the solution for. How many people are in this market that you're creating the solution? right? Again, use no paragraphs, no stories. You can research, what do you call it now? Pitch deck samples on the internet. There's several millions and millions of pitch deck samples. You can see how they illustrate the market size. So use those illustrations of market size to project your market size instead of writing paragraphs. Now, your traction is what you have done over a given period. Your growth milestones, your impact, when did you launch out, how many subscribers do you have, or how many customers do you have in this year, or how much revenue you have accumulated, or what awards you have, or what partnerships you have, you have entered into, what new markets you've entered into. So what are those things that you have done that's noteworthy? You can put them in the traction. Next thing is your business model. So your business model is, how does your business make money? So for some businesses, you don't even need to have a business model slide because it's already very clear. For someone like me that run a fashion company, I don't really need to have a business model slide because it's very easy. Like you already know, we make dresses and sell. That's what it is. So most tech companies have a business model because we need to understand, how do you actually make money? Is that people subscribe to your app and, or they pay for monthly subscription or pay commission from, the sale, or how? So those ones they're a bit different and diverse. So you have to actually demonstrate your business model. How you make money. Again, no paragraphs, use illustrations to demonstrate that. Your financials, again, please do not post Excel sheets on your pitch deck. Do not post Excel sheets on your pitch deck. Represent your financials with simple graphs and charts. Put a simple graph and a chart I'll show you an example, because nobody wants to read numbers in an Excel sheet on your pitch deck. Do not do that. 7 is your team. Your team should have 3 critical members. Your maybe CEO or CFO or CMO or what have you, or chief chef, or So 3 key people. You don't need to have more than 3 people on your slide, please, so that it doesn't, you don't have too many people that are not relevant for that pitch. So the relevant people for pitching really is the founders, or whoever it is that's championing the next major thing, say operations, maybe head of operations or head of technology or head of marketing. Just 3 key people that you need. So put there. Okay, I'll show you an example as well. Last but not the least is your ask, your next milestone. So this your ask will have your next milestone. What do you want to do next? So from this pitch, pitch that you have done, or you've done this, you've done that, you've created this, you've created that, you've sold this, you've sold that. What's the next thing for you for this business? Or in the next 5 months, we are moving to, supplying people in Afghanistan, or in the next 3 months, we are moving to the US, or we're launching this app in Ghana in October 2024. Or the next milestone for us is we're building a new factory to do this, this, and that. So talk about your next milestone. That next milestone is where you hinge your ask on. So if my next milestone is, in the next 5 months, building this factory in Morocco, right? We need $5 million to be able to do this, and do that. So because you've talked about your next milestone, you can now talk about what you need and how it ties to your next milestone, right? Then the potential impact of this, your ask, is, what will happen if I give you this $5 million? What will happen if I grant you the loan? What will happen if I give you the grant? Now, for what you can say, for example, is, when I receive this $5 million, we would complete the factory, and by the end of Q1 2025, we would have employed 1,000 young girls who are out of school. Or something like that, right? So tell us what will happen at the end of that period of the project. What that does is, it gives me an assurance that I'm keen into a success story that's somewhere. So rather than saying, I need $5 million to build the factory, and that's it, or the factory will produce 5,000 pieces of this, that every day, right? Now, what would happen as a result of that production? Now, that's the potential impact. Now, because of this $5 million, 1,000 young girls will now be employed in, this factory. Or by the time we are done with this research, we're using this $500,000 to research malaria vaccine. By the end of 2025, Nigeria will be malaria free. That's the impact of that funding. That's the potential impact of the funding. Now, even if nobody hears your pitch and they hear the potential impact, everybody wants to key into a success story. So they're interested in that success story and they want to be part of that change. All right, I think this is the last one. Pitch presentation. Now you can have a beautifully done pitch, but you lack presentation skills. You need to be able to, build your presentation skills in such a way that people believe you, even if you're saying gibberish, right? A lot of people that you'll be talking to are not experts in your industry. They're not experts in health and in agri and in creative sector. I mean, they're not experts in all these industries put together, right? So they would rely mostly on your confidence to believe what you're saying. So if you're talking to them about your value, ensure that you're talking with a lot of authority and conviction that you know what you're saying. So that way you're helping them to believe you. All right. So you have to be able to, pitch exceptionally, use the content of your pitch deck, your fiscal outlook, your, time management, your body language, your, gestures, your hand gestures. So you see how my body is even moving, even though we are in a, this is a virtual meeting, but you can still feel my energy and, the authority in what I'm saying just by watching the screen. Right? So that's exactly how you convey the message of your pitch in such a way that it's believable, even if I'm not in your industry, even if I don't know what you're saying, I feel like, I can believe you because I think she knows what she's saying, just because you are exuding a lot of authority and conviction and with a lot of confidence. Right? So that's what your presentation can do. Your impact must be, these points are very important. So as you're demonstrating your impact, ensure that you're not just saying, we're helping so many women in this community, or we're helping so many children in Africa. No, your impact must be represented in numbers and use illustrations and charts. I've talked about this before. You don't just say vague things. Please ensure that you're putting numbers of value to what you're talking about. So when I was talking about Red Bottom Story, I talked about how many people that we're empowering in that community. So because of this work, we're empowering 350 women in this rural community who are hand-making this material. So at the end of, so they do, let's say, for example, 5,000 handbags in, let's say 1 week, right? So you have to be able to put numbers to exactly the impact that you're creating. Now, as you are, speaking, make movement, I've talked about it, your hand gestures, smile, use powerful, assertive words, remarkable. We had excellent audience. We had this, we built this, powerful, what do you call it now? We made this phenomenal impact in this community. We had this, powerful speech from the president, doing this and that. We have, acquired this, we've acquired that. Ensure that you're speaking with a lot of confidence so that people think actually that you know what you're saying, even though you know what you're saying, right? Now, use conversation starters and, make your demonstrations. Again, if you're in a product business, ensure that you demonstrate your product while you're pitching, right? So wherever I pitch, it doesn't even matter which country, I always have a fashion show on the stage. That's standard. I always have a fashion show. Wherever I am pitching, in whatever country, I always have models. I talk to the organizers and that they give me at least 2 models so that as I'm pitching, people are making a demonstration of my pitch and my pitch cannot be boring. That way you're keeping them attentive because sometimes these speeches can be boring. Imagine listening to 500 pitches. I'm tired and I need to sleep, right? So you need to be able to keep them glued to what you're saying because a lot of times they are tired. They want the next person to come and then the next person so they can go and rest. Sometimes they forget what you're saying or they didn't even catch what you said. But because your pitch is interesting, they will not forget, they will not even blink, they will watch, they'll be glued to your pitch. So I have, those interesting things happening on the stage whenever I'm pitching. So even if we're pitching on a live, on a virtual platform, you can demonstrate as well, oh, my company makes this and this. We make the best USB. This is how it works. We unplug it here. We unplug it here. We do this. You do that. So have all these demonstrations on the screen. It helps your pitch also be, more interesting. If you're a service business, you can have short clips, 5 seconds, 10 seconds clips on your pitch deck, showing the service you're creating. That's if you want to go above and beyond. Ordinarily, you can also use your pictures, and that's why I always clamor for very bold illustrations that will keep people glued and not, not boring. So use conversation starters. Of course, dress properly. Don't come, looking like you're hungry. Come looking like the money that you're asking for. If you're asking for $5 million, of course, you should be looking like you can handle $5 million, right? Dress properly, be very well groomed. Do not wear pajamas, even though it's a virtual pitch. And don't just be, anyhow because it's a virtual pitch, or lie down, or, do whatever you like, All right. Make a show. So generally use verifiable facts. Don't say so many people are dying in Africa. Who told you so many people are dying? Who gave it? Where did you get that information from? So you just say things out of the blues. Or people are dying, so we created this solution to help, these women who are suffering. Which women are suffering? What are the women are suffering? How many are they? In which community? Right? So you have to use verifiable facts to convey your message. So things like, 5,000 children die from, what do you call it? Jaundice, for example, or the UN report of 2023 states that 5,000 children die from jaundice in so and so countries. And because of that, we created this, what do you call it now? We created this, whatever application to help, young moms, to help moms prevent jaundice from their children from having jaundice, right? So you state verifiable facts, and not just what you think or assume that is happening around you. Use pictures, of course, dress properly. Do not use baseless assumptions, like I said. Do not use too much text on your pitch. Do not use words like, oh, I think that we might sell out by the time we launch, or I think that this community needs this product. I think that, no, or we're trying to see if we can, strike a deal with this customer, or we're trying to see if we can get a partnership. No, all the I think, or trying, or probably, or, like, we're going to sell out, like, seriously, we're going to sell out by the time no, don't do those things, right? Don't. So it's either you've done it or you haven't done it. We have built this factory, or the website will be ready by the end of Q3 2024, or we have reached a partnership with Google, or we are in talks with, Meta to deploy this technology for us by so and so time. So you have done it or you haven't done it. There's no trying, probably we are seeing if we can do, no, right? The more assertive you are, the better. It's done, it's executed, or it's ongoing. So remember, in all of this, the only way to cause silence in the room is by being extraordinary. You cannot be like everybody else. Find ways to stand out, and that's the only way you can win. All right? Thank you. I'll quickly share this, the what do you call it now? The sample slide for you to see what I mean. I'm not sure how to get there now, but let me see. How do I close this presentation? Or should I say stop share?
Yeah, Chima, you can try stop sharing this, and then you can select the other slide which you want to share, and again share the screen.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, right. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, we're back here again. Who's this people? Okay, got it. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You can take your time.
Ready to share. Okay, got it.
Still thinking of the
All right, can you see my screen now? Share.
Yes.
Present. Okay. Okay, so this is a sample page for a fashion company. Again, I'm using a bold picture for my cover slide. So once you see this picture, you're already salivating. Ah, that's such a pretty picture. You know, so then this is a picture you don't want to see because this is problem, right? This is problem. This is the problem slide, and I'm talking about the sustainability story, how this water hyacinth has led us to, partnering with other companies to help us solve this huge problem. So imagine the boat transport operators, they cannot even move their boat because this thing has covered the whole water. No economic activity can happen, but we have come now to show them how this can, can be of economic value, right? So this is how where you now tell your story. Oh, in 2020, I found out that this is a huge problem in my community. See how people are suffering. People cannot move. This, that is happening. And then you move to the solution. Now we are using all these materials to create raw materials for our fashion production, right? And because of this work, we are empowering 300 women who are hand dyeing, who are weaving, who are chiseling coconut shells, who are, processing this, hazardous weed, who are doing all these things in several communities in the rural areas that we are now using for fashion. So that's our solution. And then I moved to our product portfolio, what we are, what we have. I've connected it to what exactly we are now selling. So we have this, sustainable alternatives for professional women. So instead of just wearing a beautiful dress, you're wearing dresses made from sustainable materials, and you can look, exactly, you can still look nice while also contributing to, our environmental and social change, right? And then, of course, this is a continuation. I'm showing you the examples of the things that we're creating from sustainable materials and the things that these women are creating. So if we stop this work, it means those women, they will go back to joblessness. Right now, this is the attraction I'm talking about. So this is an example of what I mean by use simple graphs to talk about your revenue or your finance, to represent your finance, right? Don't put an Excel sheet on your pitch deck. Nobody wants to read numbers on an Excel sheet on your pitch, right? So use a simple graph or a simple chart like this to project your revenue or your finances. So in projecting your finance slide, there are three key elements that you can use, or three key metrics: your cost, revenue, and profit. There are so many other things you can use, but these are the three key things that you need, investors or whoever it is to see: is the costs of running your business, the revenue you have acquired over the period, and then your profit. So it helps them understand, oh, this business, is it profitable? Are you expending so much because you've just started and you're buying so many machines, you're acquiring so many, you're paying so many consultants, and it's okay if you're not making profit in your business. If you're a startup, it's okay. Nobody expects a startup to make, all that millions for starting. So it's fine. The important thing is that they need to see that your business is doing something. So even if you're expending so much in the first year, it's understandable. You're just starting. You need to expend all that money before the traction will come. All right. So essentially, use a simple chart to project your finances. And then you can talk about, so this is my traction as well, the places where we have been featured. All right. So it helps also to gain, more credibility that, oh, okay, if she has been featured by Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week, if she's been featured by the UK government, if she's been featured by the UN, this company is doing something right. So I think I need to join this bandwagon. People like to join success stories. So they like that, oh, all these organizations are interested in your work. that means, you're credible. It means you're not going to run away. It means you're not going to wake up and disappear. For them to be backing you, means there's something here. So you can talk about all those partnerships, all the showcases you've done, all the, whatever it is that's worth knowing, put it as part of your attraction. Okay, so here's your market size. Like I said, present your market size, no paragraphs, no long stories. Use illustrations and charts to talk about your market size, where exactly you're targeting. So for here, I'm targeting 60 million Nigerians, ages 22 to 25. It's very clear. And then I'm targeting customers in the US, and that market is 180 million people. Now, the next steps, like I talked about, your next milestone, what do you want to do next? You want to build a factory next, and the next 1 year, what do you want to do? That will link you to what you want to do with the money that you're asking for, right? So our next steps here was to launch in the US and then introduce a platform, our digital platform, and expand our local factory. So this is our next steps, and this is also tied to the ask on the next page. So this might not be compulsory. For some pitches, they require you to tell them your go-to-market plan. Again, remember I talked about understanding what the audience or the organization you're pitching to, what they require. So this will enable you find put the right things in your pitch deck. For some pitch decks, they don't have this slide. Some are only interested in how your pitch or how your company is connected to the SDGs. So you have a slide that has SDGs. Some, I don't have that here because this pitch deck was not, was not pitching any foundation, right? So here I have a go-to-market plan. How do you want to launch into the market? I'm talking about virtual events. I'm going to use influencer marketing. I'm going to use social media. So this is just telling the audience how I'm going to launch into the market and make money. Then you talk about your management team. Like I said, three key people are enough. I talked about the CEO, the CTO, and then the operations manager, and that's enough. And yeah, that's about it. So I think I have just 10 slides. I think this is about 10 slides. And that's the end of the demonstration. So yeah, thank you very much. And I hope you've had a great time. If you have any questions, this is the time to ask your questions. Thank you very
Chioma,
much.
that was an excellent presentation and I really enjoyed it. And I'm sure like all our participants in the class today really enjoyed the session. It was so interesting, keeping us, and even it was so clear and no questions asked, like everything was clear to the point and everything was explained. Fantastic. So now let's go to the questions. Okay.
Sorry, quick one.
Yes,
Can you please put the last slide up? 1 second, please.
the last slide.
What do you mean?
The last slide. I just wanted to see your contact.
Oh, my contacts. Okay, I will show you actually. So let's have the next question while I'm getting the contact out.
Hi. Hi, Chioma.
Hi.
Hi, this is Lola speaking. This is not really a question, it's more of a comment. I wanted to just say thank you for this session because I'm also a fashion designer and this really helped. Yeah, I had a runway last week last month with African Fashion with Toronto, and just everything you said was very, very helpful. Thank you so much. So it's not a course, it's more of a comment.
Yeah, I appreciate
also-
that. Thank you so much, Lola.
She's also going to be part of the FOA fashion show with her designs.
You see, so that has to be your traction slide, remember?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Nairobi, you can go on.
Hi, Chioma. Thanks for being with us today. I agree with Iola, and I'm sure there's tons of other people. Your presentation was amazing. You're very to the point. You didn't oversaturate anything. I think it made it very clear for what we need to present to everyone. So thank you for that. My question is, I have two questions. I noticed that you're one of the 3 people for your team. I feel like you've answered the question already. I was going to ask if the 3 people included yourself or if it was 3 people outside of yourself. So I'm assuming it's 3 people including yourself.
Yeah.
The second question is, how much stats is sufficient? Because we can go on with stats for days. So like, if we're adding statistics to or facts to our slides, how much of these statistics do you think the judges want to hear about? Like, what's too much?
All right. Okay. So again, because barely have time, it's usually 2 minutes, 3 minutes. In fact, if it's stretched, I'm not sure who stretches pitches to 5 minutes anyway. But if it's so stretched, it will be 5 minutes. You have maximum 5 minutes to pitch, so you don't have time to give so much information. So it will do you good. Actually, it's for your own good to minimize the number of the how much information that you give. What the pitch is supposed to do. So, for instance, the statistics you have is I'm empowering 5 million women in Bangladesh. I am helping 300 hospitals. I'm supplying 300 hospitals here. I'm doing this. So you have, let's say, 10 of all these amazing things. There is no need talking about all those 10 things. There is no need. So just pick maybe just 2. So on the sample deck I showed you, there are just 2 things I talked about. I just talked about the women that we're empowering, and because those are the more critical things. Again, understand the platform that you're pitching, so you understand whatever it is that is critical to them. So the platform that I was using that pitch deck for, they are more interested in women empowerment. So I talked about the women that we're empowering, and then of course the material that we are taking off off the waterways. So there are so many other things that we do, of course, as a company, but those are the 2 major things. Of course, you can see that the slides were not even clogged. I just had pictures all over the place, and then just a few lines to describe the pictures. So just 2 major things. You don't need to bore them with so much information. If it interests them, they will ask you, oh, let's have your pitch deck. Then you can do the pitch deck that you send by email. But for your 5 minutes, your 3 minutes, your 2 minutes pitch, it will do you good to just select just a very few key things to talk about. Yeah.
Thank you. And how much time, or what are the main pages that you feel we should be spending the most time on? So like the problem, the solution.
So what I do is to assign, what do you call it now? Assign time to the slides. So if I have 10 slides, I'm assigning 20 seconds or 30 seconds to each slide. So depending on how much time I have. So if I have, let's say, so for my business, you can assign, I usually assign more time to my problem and the solution slide, because that's where the major thing is. So I'm talking of this huge problem in this community. It will take more time than when I'm talking about my market size. So my market size is, I'm targeting 5 million people in this country. Women ages 5 to 1 million, right? That shouldn't take any, serious explanation. So, but where the most time should be assigned will be your problem, because that's where the crux of the matter is, and then your solution. And then maybe your traction. If you've had very, big things that you want to mention, that'll be interesting for the audience. So for instance, we have gotten into a partnership with Google, or Amazon has funded us with $50,000 to create this platform. So you can assign more time to those things that you think are very heavy and beneficial for the pitch. So essentially, your business, where to assign the time is according to where you feel there's so much value.
Okay, thank you. I'm asking that because depending on who you talk to and the type of pitch deck you're presenting, like for investors, a lot of them want to hear about your team. They want you to spend time on the team slides, and most people don't do that. But that's a very core and important piece. So that's specifically why I'm asking for this pitch contest. I don't know if you're going to be one of the judges, but would the team slide be something that you'd want us to spend a lot of time on? And I'm sorry, I asked a lot of
Okay,
questions.
so the truth is, yeah, no, that's totally fine. So that's why I said you have to know what the audience is interested in. So for some people, they are, just like you said, they're interested in the team. And then in fact, I said when I started that I've used 3 slides before, and I still won that competition with 3 slides. And that's because I know exactly what they're looking for, and I give them exactly what they're looking for. So if they're more interested in your team, you can move the team to the 3rd slide. So immediately after your solution, you talk about your team. If that's where the company is interested in, you move that slide forward so they can have some time, talking about that slide. So again, there's what do you call it now? It depends on who you're pitching. So find out exactly what they're interested, and you can tweak your pitch based on that. So yeah, if they're interested in your team, you can spend more time in your the team slide.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, let's quickly go to the next question. During the ask stage, what's a usual milestone for a company that hasn't started yet, like a new business or a startup?
Yeah, so please also try to avoid this for new founders who don't have so much traction. Just don't, say, well, I just started, we don't really have anything. So before you start, there has to be something that you have done to enable you, be asking for funding or asking for anything anyway, right? So things like we completed the research for this. We understand that this market is in need of this solution. What have you done that informed that decision, right? So it's possible that you've completed a research, or that you have sealed a partnership with this company who is helping you develop these products in that location. So all those things are part of what you can use as your traction. What you have done in preparation for launching this startup. So you don't say, well, I haven't done anything, I'm just starting, or just an idea I have in my head, or I need $5 million to execute this idea, and you haven't done anything. So things that you have done would include maybe a research report you've concluded, or a partnership with some organizations that you have sealed, or what do you call it now? Maybe events, or you have built a platform, or you haven't launched it yet, or your website is ready and you have tested it across those and so regions. You are now ready to launch, or so all those things that you do in preparation for the launch proper. Those are the things that you can put in the traction.
So, what would be considered as a milestone, like a future milestone at that point?
Yeah, so again, that's a huge milestone. To complete a research in some region, to understand that these people need white handkerchiefs, that's a huge milestone, because that's the level where you are. For some people, they don't know, or for investors, investors cannot go everywhere to know everybody's problem. So the fact that you have that data to say, oh, we have realized that 500 children in Bangladesh need white handkerchiefs, that's information that they can buy with a lot of money. So if you have done it, it's a huge milestone. You have a research report that shows that this community needs this, or you have partnered with the government in this country to provide this. Some people, that's what they're looking for, and they can buy it with lots of money. So if you have done that groundwork, that's a huge milestone.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
On to Cheryl.
Hey, so quick question. I was just wondering if we were gonna get the rubric, the judging rubric for this pitch contest. But then also I'm just wondering, I have a problem with talking too much. So how do I fit all of this stuff? Because like the USP, the problem solution, like all of this into 5 minutes is a scary thing.
3 minutes, actually.
Oh, I thought for this pitch it's 5 minutes.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm saying you have to also learn how to do it in 3 minutes.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, so I get this question a lot, and it just makes me laugh because it just means that You need to practice. You need to practice. I'm sorry. That's the only way. I don't have a magic answer. That's the only way. You have to practice. Practice your pitch. Practice with 1 minute. You need to have a 1 minute pitch. Every founder, I'm sorry, you cannot, there's nothing you can do about it. Every founder needs to have a 1 minute pitch. You need to have a 3 minute pitch. Then, for this case, you can have your 5 minutes pitch, but you have to practice. And you time yourself as you're practicing with those slides. Find out the things that you don't need to include in a 1 minute pitch. I probably don't need to tell so many stories in a 1 minute pitch. I just talk about the context and the solution I'm offering. Then in a 3 minutes pitch, I can dive into the other things, the more problems, the business model. And then in a 5 minutes pitch, I think 5 minutes is too much time for any pitch. Who gives you 5 minutes to pitch?
The one that I have that I've practiced is 10 minutes. So like, I'm like, hey girl, we got to get rid of some stuff.
Who does that? 10 minutes. Wow. That's
was
a whole
the-
presentation. That's like a whole day.
Yeah.
But seriously, every startup, you need to be on your feet and practice with the shortest available time, and still hit it. When I picked the pitch I used for 3 slides, in fact, it was even a global pitch. It was the French, in fact, it was Emmanuel Macron's pitch. We're selecting people from across continent to work on a project in France. And it was 2 minutes with 3 slides. 2 minutes pitch with 3 slides. And I still won it. It was 2 minutes and I gave everything that was meant to be given. So you don't need 1 million, you don't need to say 1 million things. Just tell them the most important thing they're looking for. That's all. And they'll be asking you for more. In fact, if they have more questions, I wanted to speak pidgin. I wanted to say now you go tired for questions. I'm sorry. You'll be tired of answering questions. If they are really, really into your pitch, they are the ones that will be asking you questions. So don't worry about all your too much information. Just pick the major things. You know what also helps me? Pick one line. Just say, for my problem is 1 line. For my solution, excuse me, 1 line. For my traction, 1 line. It helps me also, tell all the information because trust me, I have a whole 100-page pitch. If you want me to start pitching for the whole day, I can do it. I have so many things to say, so many things to pitch about. So the impact you're making is humongous. We have a lot of things that we're doing, but I cannot be saying all of that. I can say it in 1 minute, in 2 minutes, in 5 minutes, right? And I think the longer it extends, you start making mistakes. That's the truth of matter. If a pitch extends for too long, 5 minutes, 10, no, that's 10 minutes is reaching. 5 minutes, it's just okay, right? So if you talk for too long, you start making mistakes. The shorter, the crisper, the better. All right? Yeah, so time yourself. That's the only way. Just practice with different times and you master it.
Okay. And then I guess it's a video question in regards to the rubric.
Okay, the rubric.
Sorry?
Yeah, no, that's a
Okay.
question to me, Chioma. So I'll check with the management, sorry, and then I'll get back to you. Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have more questions? Ask me questions. We still have about 10 minutes. Ask me questions. I
Okay,
want you
then
guys to win. Just let me know that you have won all the things you're pitching for.
Okay, I have another question then that I can throw in is so basically my company is like a personal growth company. We do it through like affirmations, guided journals, like workshops and all that sort of stuff. So my USP has always been like really focusing on like the internal change, and I just don't feel like that's been like juicy enough. How do I go through the process of figuring out like what is a juicy USP? Like what will get people hooked?
I'm sorry, what's your value proposition?
So like usually how I open up the pitches is just talking about like, just our mental state and like just that like 95% of the thoughts that we feel every day are just habits, and then how do we change those, and it's getting into like the problem that we solve. But I guess I just like I think it's like again like a nice to have versus wow, like we need this, throw money at her, type of thing. And I guess like I'm going to be working with one of our colleagues here to figure out like what would make that juicier. But I guess it's more along like, how do I figure out like a really good hook to get the judges in?
Right. So like I explained, you can use research. So use research, research on industrial companies who are doing the same thing as you across the world. You find out what they are adding. And sometimes it's not even rocket science, or it's not anything gigantic. It's something very tiny. Sometimes not something very huge. You can add something to make it more interesting. It can be something as small as the audience that you're targeting. Maybe if it's a vulnerable audience, that alone is value. If you're not targeting everybody, if you're targeting people who ordinarily are left out from the ecosystem, that's enough value. So that's why you see so many people are targeting women, because women don't have money, or women don't get support, or women are vulnerable, or women are this, or women and children. That's their USPs, women and children, because a lot of people want to help women and children. So it could be something as small as your target group. Maybe you're targeting prisoners, or you're targeting babies, or something. What I'll say is just research. Research opens your mind to things that you didn't even think about. And I'm serious, and this is for everybody. And I'm being honest. Research your industry globally. Research companies that you think, oh, I like this company that doing the same thing as you. Research them. You find one or two things that they're doing that you can incorporate into your business. So, for instance, people in my industry in the UK, they use, for example, I don't know, what can I use? Something, or they use glasses to make caps, right? For instance. And I was like, oh my goodness, we don't have glasses in Nigeria, but we have phones. So maybe I can use phones to make cap. And that's exactly how things transform. I'll give you a practical example. People we don't have like a secular fashion platform, like a digital platform, a functional digital platform in Nigeria, but I've seen it working in other parts of the world, in the US and the UK. And I thought, how come we don't have it in Nigeria? You know what? Let's do it. And I took the things that are very common in Nigeria and used that innovation that I found in the US and the UK, and I used it to build something that's peculiar to a Nigerian market. And I couldn't have done that if I wasn't researching this industry globally to find out how other people are infusing things, what are the things that people are doing that I can pick one or two things from and innovate in my own business. So that's the only way it works, that I can tell you for free. Research your industry across the world. You pick a few things that will stand out for you. All right.
Okay, so we have 3 hands raised here. I don't know who went first. Maybe I'll go with Adiola then.
Adiola, my country girl.
Yeah. Hi. Hello. Hi. Okay. My name is Adiola. I'm into cakes, Demet's cakes. When you mentioned what makes at the beginning of your speech, you need to talk about what interests you need to get their attention. So I'm just thinking of something like, okay, because what brought me into cake is not like the story that you mentioned, but it's a pitch and I need to really come up with something. So I don't know if it's okay for me to just share it like, oh, I went to a wedding. I'm just thinking if you can help me reframe it. I went to a wedding and, the cake was not beautiful, or, and I felt like a wedding, something should attract you, was not attractive enough. And when I tasted the cake, it was not, it wasn't good enough. I felt like, why can't I go into something like this, add value to people, then bring beauty to every event? Because part of our work, beauty to every event, and, delight. I mean, Jimen's cake is a delight every taste. So I'm just thinking how you can just come up with a statement for me. Thank you.
Okay, so while I might not come up with a statement for you immediately, but I'll just tell you something that you can do. Now, think about how this beautiful event that you've talked about, how does it affect anybody? How does it solve anybody's problem, right? Just think about it. How does beautiful event solve anybody's problem? Now, that will help you understand how to even channel the message. So you say, oh, you went for an event and the cake was not looking nice. It was not looking nice to you. Who told you that the couple that they didn't like their cake? Did they tell you that they didn't like their cake? Who told you that? So that's just what you thought in your head, right? So you see the practical, this is a practical example of what I was talking about. You don't just say things. Who tell you that one?
Sorry, please forgive me. I just want to jump in. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll stop. I'll shut up.
I'm not sure. Were you trying to ask
I'm
a question?
sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So what happened is I wanted to attempt to create a story from Adiola's story or create an opening. I don't know if that's okay. This is my attempt. So what if you say like, have you ever been to a wedding, a beautiful royal wedding, and the cake is a disaster? How about that?
Okay, so that also brings me to my question. Who told you the cake is a disaster? How is the cake a disaster? The people that ate it, did they die? Or what was the disaster there? Right? So you need to extract that information because you're saying a disaster is in your head. Except you say, oh, the couple met me and told me that their child or their sister was poisoned with the cake at their wedding. That's a more compelling message. That saying, I walked into this wedding and the cake was such a disaster. How? Is that what they told you? So find more creative ways and compelling ways that validate what you're saying. Because in this case, there's nothing validating what you're saying. Just like me saying, this your dress is so ugly. Who told you I like the dress and I bought it? Wait till concern you. Why are you saying the dress is ugly? So except there's a damage that the dress is doing, or this dress is torn or is pricking you or is making blood or is there's something happening that is affecting you. So you have to extract that information. Oh, I walked into this wedding. Imagine that this wedding, that the people that tasted the cake, all of a sudden, started purging at the wedding venue. The cake is not supposed to have this kind of ingredient, or it's not supposed to do this, it's not supposed to do that. So those things are what would inform that, oh, that's exactly why I decided, what, I need to start making healthy cake. I need to start, infusing all these kind of things for ceremonial cakes as well. So instead of just looking nice, cake is meant to be healthy for, whatever audience, right? I think that's a more interesting argument than telling me the cake was a disaster. Madam, who told you that cake was a disaster? I like the cake like that. So except there's something else that has happened, right? And I'm telling you this because this is how investors think. They don't do things over their head. It's not it has to be critical. All right?
Tega? Sorry, am I pronouncing it properly? It's Tega?
Yeah, that's okay. Hi, Chioma. Very interesting. It was really, really interesting. My question is, if I am making my speech, can I also introduce my team? Like we are two running this business. Can I also introduce him to also say his own bits, as long as we keep to the 5 minutes time frame? Is it advisable?
Yeah, sure. Yes, definitely. You can have a member of your team join you, as long as you coordinate it well and you're not over your time.
Okay.
Don't the point where someone tells you stop, your time is up.
Yeah, I don't
You'll be
want that.
devastated. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just again, it's practice. So practice within the time.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Stephanie, I think Stephanie has a last time up. And Stephanie has been laughing since here. We can't hear
You're
you.
muted. Oh, no, you're speaking, but we cannot hear you.
Hi, Chioma. Thank you so much for your presentation this evening.
Okay, Stephanie, we cannot hear you.
I'm gonna type it.
Oh, what have I done?
I think I heard her say that she'll be typing the question. But while she's doing that, I saw a question that
Okay.
I should put out there for the sole proprietors amongst us. So it's about
Can you hear me now?
key people in key team members, about that on the slide. If it's just one person running the organization, is it necessary to have the team slide? I think that was asked by you, Yvonne. Thank you very much.
Yes. So even if it's just you, you don't want it to look like your. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get back on my. I'm trying to get back my screen. I don't know where the screen is. Where am I? Oh my God. Okay. Yeah, so you don't want it to look like it's just you in the company. Nobody wants to give money to one person. You want to know that you have a team that can, check what you're doing. So even if it's just you, you have to have two other, should I say, pseudo people. So when it was even just me, I still had two people from somewhere. So maybe an accountant, my accountant friend that just helps me, or my friend that helps me with operations. I just need to have two pseudo people. At least I'm just starting, but I want to start. You also want to show that you're building. You don't want to build by yourself. So you can have two pseudo people, even though they're not on your payroll, just to show that you are, you have plans to build. Yeah. So you know how you talk about your business and say, oh, you're responding to an email. Oh, we'll get back to you shortly. There's no we. It's just me. I'm the logistics person. I'm the marketing person. I'm the HR. But I'll say, oh, our HR will get back to you. It's still me. But I'm using, HR to say, oh, our HR will get back to you. Oh, don't worry. Our admin person would, send the letter to you. I'm still the admin person, right? So that's exactly how people who want to fund you want to see that your business has some kind of structure. That's not just you. So find two pseudo people to include.
Thank you very much for that. I think that is very satisfactory. And I saw Ashley's comment there. Thank you. That was funny. But yeah, thank you.
Chief Everything Officer. Someone typed Chief Everything Officer. Exactly. So I'm Chief Everything Officer. I was at that time. Yeah. So most new founders are Chief Everything Officer for some time. And that's okay.
Okay, so we have reached the end of the session. I see Adiola's hand raised. Is it a quick question, Adiola? Then we can take your question as well.
Okay, I'm just thinking. Okay, thank you. Since she said, we should not present as because my business is registered as sole proprietorship. So okay, so in the pitch, it will not be okay for me to present like Dimes Cakes is registered as a sole proprietorship. So I'm just thinking of how to introduce Dimes Cakes. If you can just help me with like how to introduce Dimes Cakes without having to present myself as a one-person business. Thank you.
Yeah, so you don't have to be, it can be a one-person business, it can be a cake business, it can be a solar panel business and still be a one-person business. So your company, like I said, you have to have pseudo people, even though we know it's just you, but you don't need to project that it's just you. So my name is Diola. I'm the founder CEO of, Diola Cakes. We make so range of healthy pastries for so target market, right? You don't need to say I have an operations officer. No. So when you get to your team slide, you will now have, founder CEO is me. I'm in charge of this and that. Our chief marketing officer or our chief, what do you call them? Is it chef or baker? Our chief chef, is it chef? Yeah, whatever you call them. Our chief chef is Susan, so has 5 years experience baking for, whatever company. And then maybe next person, our admin manager has Susan, so, or our kitchen manager or operations manager right? So even though they are not real on your salary, on your payroll, just talk about them, put pseudo people, like I always say, and then put their names, their, what do you call it now, titles, right? And it has to be title connected to what you're looking at. So what will help you actually in doing this, even if you don't have anybody, is where are you going? What do you want to do in the next 1 year or next 2 years? So in the next 2 years, even if it's just me baking in my kitchen, I want to have a chief chef or a chief baker, and then I want to have a chief operations person because we are growing, and I want to be in stores across Canada. How am I going to get into stores? I need to have an operations manager. So we start thinking in terms of what we want to do in the next 2 years and put those people in those positions, pseudo people. Yeah. So don't ever introduce yourself as it's just me. I'm a sole proprietor. Nobody asks you for a sole proprietor. It's a proper business. I am the founder CEO of this company. We make this for this target market. Our solution is this. We are creating, we are making, we are targeting. This is my team, myself, CEO, chief chef, chief operations officer, whether you have them or not. All right.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chioma, for joining us today. And we know that you're not in Canada right now, but in spite of that, thank you so much for joining us from a different time zone. And thank you so much. And now I pass on to Mati.
Thank you, Lydia, and thank you once again, Chioma, because you rounded up all our weeks of sessions and classes, and thank you so much for addressing the questions as well. So once again, I would like to just go over the dates. So the deadline for everybody to submit the business plan is by the 25th of noon, Eastern Standard Time. All the times are on Eastern Standard Time. So the pitch deck needs to be submitted by the 29th noon. So some dates, the mock pitches would be happening on the 3rd and the 4th of October. You will be getting all the emails either from Esther or from Banke. For participants from EP, A and EE program, you'll be getting the email from Esther. And for the bar participants, you'll be getting the email from Banke. So the mock pitch is on the 3rd and the 4th of October. So you'll be getting your slot. And then the virtual pitch is going to happen on the 5th of October. The in-person pitch is going to be on the 6th of October. That is the Friday. The results will be announced on the 7th of October, which is the grand finale. And for FOA, Friends of Africa, the tickets are all free for the participants from this session. So if you are not yet registered for FOA, please either write to Esther or write to Banke. So good luck, and we will see you all next week. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Matthew. Stephanie, please email me your question. I'll be happy to send them over to